This joint assembly is convened pursuant to the provisions of JRS 39, which the clerk will now read.
JRS 39. Joint resolution providing for a joint assembly for the election of 2 legislative trustees of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the 2 houses meet in joint assembly on Thursday, February 17, 2022 at 10:30 in the forenoon to vote on the election of 2 legislative trustees of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation to serve a 4-year term commencing March 1, 2022 and expiring on March 1, 2026. And be it further resolved that the joint assembly shall be concurrently conducted electronically, at which members of the General Assembly may participate and debate from a remote location. That voting by ballot shall be conducted as practicable, consistent with Vermont's early or absentee voter statute at 17 VSA, section 2531 at sec. That after the nominations and debates, if necessary, the joint assembly shall recess until Tuesday, March 8, 2022 at 2 p.m. or as otherwise ordered by the joint assembly, so that ballots may be submitted and that upon reconvening, the results of the vote shall be announced or the General Assembly shall proceed until the above is completed.
Pursuant to our statutes, we are assembled here today in joint assembly for the election of 2 legislative trustees for the Vermont State Colleges Corporation, who are to be elected as trustees for the 4-year terms commencing on March 1st, 2022 and expiring on March 1st, 2026. You are cautioned with respect to 2 statutory conditions imposed at law for this election. First, no candidate for election of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation can presently be serving as a member of the Board of Trustees of the University of Vermont. Second, consideration will be given to the geographic distribution of those elected in order to prevent an unfair focus on any single college. The procedure for the election of these 2 legislative trustees of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation will be similar to the procedure which we followed in past years. The candidates will be nominated from the floor and elected by plurality vote. In the event that more than 2 candidates are nominated, the procedure for the election of these 2 legislative trustees of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation will be different from the procedure which we would normally follow under the joint rules. JRS 40 sets up a special procedure for this particular election. In the event that more than 2 candidates are nominated, the adoption of JRS 40 permits us to determine the winners of this election by means of a plurality vote, so that 2 candidates can be elected on the same ballot. In the event that more than 2 candidates are nominated, you will be instructed to vote for not more than 2 candidates on the same ballot. I also draw your attention to the text of Joint Rule 10, which applies to elections held by this assembly. Rule 10A provides that whenever a joint assembly is required to elect 1 or more persons to any office, the voting shall be by ballot, except that if there's only 1 candidate for any office, and if there is no objection, the chair may put the question to joint assembly by voice vote. Legislative elections are governed by Title II, Section 12B, which provides in part, a candidate for office shall, not later than 1 week preceding the election, notify the Secretary of State in writing of his or her candidacy, naming their particular office. If he or she fails to notify the Secretary of State, his or her name shall not be printed on the ballot. No ballot may be used other than the official ballot provided by the Secretary of State. 2 names were submitted to the Secretary of State for inclusion on the official ballot. We shall now proceed to the nomination of candidates for the 2 trustees of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Each candidate will have 1 nominating speech, not to exceed 3 minutes, and may have 1 or 2 seconding speeches, not to exceed 1 minute each. Are there any nominations for these offices? The member from Manchester, Representative James, is recognized. And I will.
Madam President, I'm honored today to nominate my friend and colleague, Representative Dave Durfee, for a 4-year term on the Vermont State College's Board of Trustees. As Representative Durfee explained in a letter to House colleagues announcing his intention to run, the Vermont State College system serves every corner of our state. It touches the lives of every Vermonter. Its programs have a profound impact on students' lives and careers. Its institutions are major employers in their communities, and they serve a critical role in preparing the state to meet its future workforce requirements. In the summer and fall of 2020, I served on the Select Committee on the Future of Public Higher Education in Vermont. This group was created by the legislature to address the fiscal crisis facing our state colleges and to chart a sustainable course for the future. In its final report, the Select Committee laid out many recommended steps that our state must take to transform the VSC and create a strong, vibrant institution. These actions are not easy, but they are critical to success. Transformation will require leadership on many levels. Leaders who are thoughtful, calm, and deeply committed, who can balance competing interests in a high-stakes arena, who can understand and analyze complex information, and most of all, who can see the big picture and help Vermont get there. So I hope you know where I'm going with this. I have just described Representative Dave Durfee. I'm very fortunate to work closely with Dave as a fellow member of the Bennington County delegation and as a trusted colleague on our House Ways and Means Committee. Dave brings considerable experience to the table in business management, in serving on boards, including many years on our local school boards. He understands the complex issues facing higher education, and he has a deep respect for governance. Dave is a hard worker. And most of all, he's committed to undertaking this responsibility. And when Dave takes something on, he knocks it out of the park. The Board of Trustees will count itself lucky to have him on the team. And I hope you will join me today in voting for Representative Dave Durfee for the Vermont State College Board of Trustees.
Now the member from Manchester has moved that Representative David Durfee of Shaftesbury be elected as trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Is there a second to the nomination? The representative from St. Albans Town, Representative Dickinson, is recognized and joining us virtually today.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to second the nomination of Representative David Durfee as a legislative trustee for the Board of Trustees for the Vermont State College System. Representative Durfee brings extensive business and board credentials with analytical and marketing experience with schools, co-ops, arts organizations, and data-driven business. He has an MBA and is interested in effective governance systems. He has served on a school board at Shaftesbury School District and at the Mount Anthony Union High School District. He has also worked as an instructor at CCV. He is willing to tackle the difficult job of streamlining the administrative services, eliminating the structural debt, and stabilizing the finances as we move forward to maintain our programs and meet the needs of our students statewide at the VSC. He has seen the difficulty of the closing of an independent institution in his own community and recognizes the Vermont State College system is facing the same demographic and prevailing trends in higher education. In addition, Representative Durfee brings an important geographic diversity to the Board of Trustees as a representative from Bennington County and the southern region of the state. I ask for your support for Representative David Durfee for this position as a legislative trustee. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded that Representative David Durfee of Shaftesbury be elected as trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Are there any other nominations? The representative from Woodstock, Representative Kimball, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. 4 years ago, it was my pleasure to nominate Jim Maslin for this position of trustee of the Vermont State College System Board. I again am standing to nominate Representative Maslin. So if I may quote the outlaw Josie Wales, I rode with him, I ain't got no complaints. But really, Representative Maslin has been in Vermont since 1979 when he moved to the town of Thetford. He was born in the town of Hanover, New Hampshire, and was educated there before getting finally educated out at Stanford University. He received both his Bachelor of Arts and also his Master of Science in Engineering. So he's married to the former Suzanne Sheldon, and together have a blended family of 7 adult children, 5 daughters, 2 boys. The oldest graduated from Northern Vermont University, Linden, and is a registered nurse. The youngest from Vermont Technical College, and now owns a civil engineering heavy equipment business. Jim and his wife have 6 grandchildren. As I said before, he moved to Thetford in 1979 and has never left. Jim has been self-employed as a builder and general contractor since 1974. He continues in that work today, but has always added jobs and involvement in work-based learning and workforce development. He was the director of the Upper Valley School to Work initiative from 1996 to 2000, and also the coordinator for the Upper Valley Workforce Investment Board. Since 2006, he has worked with Habitat for Humanity as a site supervisor and construction manager. Currently, he has served on the boards of the following organizations: the Two Rivers Ottaquechee Regional Planning Commission, EC Fiber Executive Committee, Green Mountain Economic Development Corporation, Greater Upper Valley Solid Waste District. He's the past president of the George D. Aiken Resource Conservation and Development Council, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and past chair of the Thetford Select Board. He's a graduate of the Vermont Institute at the Snelling Center for Government. Certainly, Jim has proven his dedication to his community and to his state. First elected to the House in 1998, and he was first elected to the Vermont State College System Board of Trustees in 2010. It is my honor and my pleasure to nominate James W. Jim Maslin.
Now, the member from Woodstock has moved that Representative James W. Maslin of Thetford be elected as trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Is there a second to the nomination? The member from St. Albans Town is again recognized virtually, Representative Dickinson.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to second the nomination of Representative Jim Maslin to a 4th term as a legislative trustee for the Board of Trustees of the Vermont State College System. Representative Maslin has been involved in education and workforce development in the Upper Valley for many years. He was a regional school to work career coordinator and regional workforce investment board coordinator. For 15 years, he trained college students in housing construction practices as a Habitat for Humanity site supervisor and construction manager. His oldest child graduated from Northern Vermont University, Linden, and his youngest graduated from Vermont Technical College. While serving on the Board of Trustees, Representative Maslin has served as the chair of the EPSL Committee, that's the Education, Personnel, and Student Life Committee, and has served for many years on the Finance and Facilities Committee. His 12 years of experience and institutional knowledge of our journey as a board, facing the unprecedented challenges of declining enrollment and reduced revenues that the system faced both before and after COVID, serves the board and system well as we navigate the transition from semi-independent campuses to a truly integrated system with aligned courses, administration, and financial structure serving all the students in areas of the state of Vermont. I ask for your support for Representative Jim Maslin as he continues to work toward the board ideals and goals of affordability, accessibility, quality, and relevance for all Vermont students. Thank you, Madam President.
The motion has been made and seconded that Representative James Jim W. Maslin of Thetford be elected a trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation. Are there any other nominations? There being no other nominations, the chair declares that nominations are now closed. The names placed in nomination as candidates for the office of trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation are as follows: David Durfee of Shaftesbury, James Jim W. Maslin of Thetford. There are 2 vacancies and 2 nominations. Under JRS 40, the elections are by plurality. Under Joint Rule 10A, we shall now proceed to vote by voice vote for the uncontested election unless there is an objection. Hearing no objection, are you ready for the question? And I will give a moment for those joining us virtually to unmute. All those in favor of the election of David Durfee of Shaftesbury and James Maslin of Thetford as trustees of Vermont State College Corporation, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay or no? David Durfee of Shaftesbury, having received a plurality number of the total votes cast, is hereby declared duly elected as a trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation for a term of 4 years commencing on March 1st, 2022. And also James W. Maslin of Thetford, having received a plurality number of the total votes cast, is hereby declared duly elected as a trustee of the Vermont State Colleges Corporation for a term of 4 years commencing on March 1st, 2022. There being no further business, the chair now declares that this joint assembly is dissolved.